The emotional distance between Kody and his children, especially those that he has with Christine and Janelle, didn't only increase. It became something like total estrangement. And then there was the now famous moment, the tough love versus mothering love line, when Kody asserted what his kids really needed wasn't coddling, but harder disciplining. It was harsh, it stung, and it didn't just rattle the wives. It set social media on fire. Viewers were outraged. The concept that fatherhood was synonymous with control rather than with compassion didn't sit well with folks, particularly from a man who'd not been a steady presence in his children's lives. And when the tell-all was on, it all came crashing down. Before our eyes, Kody didn't arrive on bended knee apologizing. He arrived defensive, irate. He spoke about betrayal, about loyalty, about being finished trying with those who, in his opinion, did not respect him. But to so many viewers, it appeared a man flailing in guilt and turning it into fury. There was no genuine introspection, no emotional responsibility, only rambling monologues, and the same audience that had once cheered for him in all his imperfections was now left sitting in awe. Because by then, the reality was impossible to deny. Kody hadn't lost just his marriages. He'd lost the faith of his family, and perhaps even the devotion of viewers who had come to view him as a multifaceted but real leader. And then there's Robyn, quite possibly the most compelling, or depending on who you ask, the most infuriating remaining character in the tale. When she walked into the Brown family, she was a new start, the clean slate, the emotional bond, Kody's soulmate, as he tended to refer to her. But skip ahead to today, Robyn's not standing on some happily ever after. She's more alone than ever. There had been a moment when she had attempted to be the bridge, the peacemaker. She said all the right things. She wept when the other wives hurt. But gradually, that facade started to crack. And when she uttered that infamous moo remark, making fun of Christine's suffering by likening it to a cow, it was chilling, cruel, and indelible. That was a moment of change. Robyn wasn't only emotionally disconnected, she had become the embodiment of everything that the other wives were trying to escape. And then there was the financial interrogation. Fans began to see the extravagant home furnishings, the doll displays, the mysterious purchases, while Janelle was struggling to stay afloat and living in an RV, and that family pot everyone once pooled their money into. Now it appeared that only one person was still dipping into it, while the others had abandoned it. But perhaps most haunting of all was when Robyn confessed something raw, that she felt like the idiot who was left behind. Not the winner, not the beloved wife, just abandoned. Now she is alone, stuck in a dream that is falling apart around her. A dream that everybody else had the bravery to leave behind. When you truly step back and examine it all, the heartbreak, the turmoil, all those years in silent pain, what's most notable isn't the collapse of a family. It's the resilience of the women who decided to rebuild. Christine, Janelle, and Meri didn't leave Kody behind. They left behind a system that continued to ask them to shrink themselves. And now, in their own way, they're standing up, louder, stronger, and freer than ever before. Yes, reality TV put their wounds on display. It captured their most difficult moments and showed them to the world. But it also gave them something strong. A platform, a stage to be heard from, a method of demonstrating to other women who were watching that it's never too late to begin anew, that mere survival is different from actually living. So here's the actual question. Is it safer to just stay quiet and preserve the peace? Or is it more courageous to just walk away and finally exhale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who do you identify with most? Christine's fearless jump? Janelle's consistent grit? Meri's quiet determination? Or even Robyn's flailing attempt to hold everything together? Thanks for watching, friends. I'm Emma, and this has been another deep dive on TLC Next Chapter. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and come back for more honest conversations about the real stories behind the show. Christine is no longer free. She's finally complete. Though her departure seemed a dramatic falling curtain, Janelle's journey has been more subdued, but no less significant. Christine may have ignited the flame, but Janelle supplied the fuel. Her narrative isn't defined by a single, fearless, take-charge moment. It's one of resilience, the sort that results from trudging through wave upon wave of emotional exhaustion, all while bearing the burden of financial responsibility that nobody else appeared in any hurry to accept. She's been rebuilding her life, step by steady step, ever since. With her children, she started an agribusiness venture, Tata Farms, built on sustainability and heritage. You won't find her posting glamorous selfies or pursuing viral TikTok challenges. She's not leaping headlong into romance. Janelle's doing what she's always done, rebuilding with strength, solidity, and low-key determination. And let's not forget this. She quit pretending that there was ever a strong connection between her and Robyn. She said it flat out. There isn't any relationship there, and she's not going to pretend anymore just to maintain appearances. Janelle's quit playing nice in order to get along. She's not resentful, she's just calling it like she sees it. And sometimes that unobtrusive honesty is more powerful than any tantrum. What's so amazing about her story is that she's doing it later in life. No glamorous getaway, no quick gratification, only grit. She didn't crave the spotlight. She didn't wait for a man to affirm her value. Janelle simply said, "I deserve a peaceful life," and then went and created it brick by brick. She may not be the loudest voice, but her strength, it resonates louder than most. And while Christine made waves and Janelle drew boundaries, Meri's journey was something else altogether. It wasn't public. It wasn't loud, at least not initially. It was slow, nearly imperceptible. A smoldering, quiet storm of hope and heartbreak that took years to come into its full fury. And in all honesty, it is one of the most tragic shifts in the Brown family's collapse. Meri was the original wife. She set the foundation. She had faith in plural marriage more intensely than any other. But she was also the first to slip through the cracks. And the emotional abandonment she experienced did not occur suddenly. It crept in slowly, menacingly. Years of being pushed aside, spoken over in plain view, and then chastised for having the audacity to crave something more. We all recall the catfishing. It wasn't merely a scandal. It was a cry for attention, a pleading reach for recognition in a relationship where she had grown invisible. In place of support, Meri was greeted with alienation. And Kody? Not one to mince words. He made it brutally apparent. He hadn't considered her a partner for years. Meri would go on to disclose that he'd not considered her as his wife in more than a decade. That level of rejection doesn't merely hurt, it shatters your understanding of self. And then, what Meri did afterward, that's where her quiet revolution really started. She started therapy, not to repair the relationship and not for anyone else's benefit, but for herself. Gradually, she released the desire for Kody's approval. She released trying to mold herself into a Robyn-style wife, that deception that if she could only be more placating, more patient, more submissive, perhaps she would at last be enough. Meri finally let go of that lie. In her Worthy Up brand, she started opening up, telling her story, her loss, her transformation, and the return to self-worth. She stepped into storytelling, traveling, and solo travel that rekindled her purpose. And it wasn't boisterous, it wasn't performative, but it was authentic. Meri doesn't begrudge. She's not striking back. She's peacefully reclaiming her life, remaking her narrative on her terms. And having survived all she has, that's a revolution all by itself. If the wives' narratives are healing, transformation, and earned freedom, then Kody's narrative is one of collapse. Not only of a family, but of the identity he constructed on dominance, spiritual leadership, and being the gravitational force at the center of everybody's lives. And now, that orbit is collapsing, rapidly. We've seen it unfold, season by season, Kody growing more defensive, more resentful, more alone. As Christine left and Janelle followed, he didn't pause for reflection. He didn't ask himself what went wrong. Instead, he tightened his grip on the one relationship that hadn't walked away. Robyn. But that fierce loyalty came with consequences. In selecting Robyn over and over, he pushed the rest of his household, particularly his older kids, further and further away, and not subtly. It was apparent to people watching. Missed birthdays, gloominess in times of family crisis, blaming the children for not respecting the rules. It wasn't simply a marriage that unraveled. It was a whole belief system imploding, a spiritual vow, centuries of sacrifice coming unraveled right before the eyes of millions of television watchers. The Brown family, once heralded as a bold example of plural marriage succeeding in the modern era, has come to symbolize something else entirely. A portrait of emotional pain, quiet betrayals, and women finally deciding on themselves after years of being emotionally benched. Hi everyone, I'm Emma, and welcome back to TLC's Next Chapter, where we don't just analyze the drama, we actually sit inside of it. We ask the tough questions most people avoid. If you've been riding this roller coaster with the Browns as long as I have, press that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. What moment made it certain to you that the family would never be the same again? Because today is not about gossip, it's about actual change. The kind that wakes a woman up at 2 a.m. after decades of being instructed to simply trust, simply wait, that things would get better eventually. But they didn't. They got worse. What do you do when the foundation upon which you've constructed your life, loyalty, religious obligation, co-parenting, no longer supports you? Christine was the first to speak truth aloud. She was finished. No more faking for the cameras. No more smiling past being ignored. When she left in 2021, it wasn't just a breakup. It was a defiant act of freedom. And that rattled everything. Janelle, ever the practical one, attempted to maintain the structure. She was weary, however. Weary of biting back tears in order to maintain peace. Weary of having her children bear the responsibility of distance. And Meri. Her silence spoke volumes more than any long-winded speech ever could. Having tolerated decades of emotional neglect from Kody, she quietly started piecing together the pieces of self-worth. As for Kody, he was unraveling. In his own mind, he was still the leader of the family, holding on to the vision. But the vision had long since passed him by. So now we wonder, what do you do when the family you sacrificed everything for doesn't collapse all at once, but slowly, agonizingly, and in public? If there was one moment that shifted everything, it was when Christine finally stood tall and said, "I'm not happy. I deserve better." That phrase didn't just resonate in Christine's existence. It shook the very foundations of the Brown family. For years, she was the one wearing the brave face, forcing the smile in the midst of the pain. She prepared the meals, raised the kids, backed the dream, all while quietly fading into the background. But something within her cracked. And honestly, she needed it too. She spent years seeing Kody emotionally check out, particularly after Robyn became part of the family system. And let's not pretend. We all witnessed it. The favoritism, the increased emotional divide, the absence of authentic partnership. Christine went from being a full partner in plural marriage to an in-name-only person. And that wasn't just hurtful, it was humiliating. When Christine left Kody in 2021, it wasn't a moment of impulse. It was the culmination of years of attempting. Therapy, hard talks, exposure. But when Kody finally informed her that he wasn't attracted to her anymore and wouldn't even attempt to salvage the relationship, that was the turning point. That was the final blow she could absorb. She packed her belongings, spoke to the children, and departed for Utah, taking back her dignity with each passing mile. And the impact on her kids? It wasn't easy. They felt it hard, particularly young, Truly, who was so young and bewildered by it all. But Christine did it in a gentle way and with openness, because leaving wasn't merely about fleeing. It was about being a role model, showing her daughters what it looks like to choose yourself. And then there was David Woolley, a romance of a very different sort. No mess, no multiple-person structure, no alpha structure, just calm, just joy. Years of invisibility had changed Christine's energy. Her smiles were more radiant. Her laughter came with less effort. Her Instagram finally reflected a life she was living, rather than one she was putting on for appearance's sake. She's starting a new company, entering the short-term rental market. She's authoring her autobiography. Her online presence is booming. Christine isn't merely picking up the pieces after polygamy. She's creating something better, on her own terms. And along with every step of that path, Christine has emerged as a symbol for every woman who waited too long to speak up, waiting for her needs to somehow become important someday. She quit waiting for happiness to catch up with her. She quit shrinking to fit into a dream that never really had her in it. Christine.